There's money in overseas accounts.
I don't have the serial number.
People always argue about whether Tony Soprano lived or died, but that's the wrong question. The real story is how Carmela's life falls apart no matter what happens to him. The Sopranos ended with a cut to black. But if one indulges the fantasy of a hypothetical season 7, the story would not be kind to Carmela Soprano. With Tony gone, or presumed gone, depending on how one reads that abrupt finale,
Carmela wants it, and I got nothing against getting well set up. I'm supposed to make the money. She takes care of the house.
Carmela is left to face the brutal arithmetic of life without the mobster who bankrolled her designer kitchens and Neapolitan chandeliers. The balance sheet looks grim.
Life insurance trust? Big red flag.
What the kid said, there was tremendous tax advantages.
To Carmela, when you die.
On paper, Carmela might have a life insurance policy, but the payout depends on Tony dying without a whiff of indictment. Unfortunately, he was recorded discussing Phil Leotardo's murder, a detail insurance companies would happily seize to void the policy.
Some people from the IRS came by.
Civil forfeiture could also loom, but only if prosecutors bothered to untangle the knot between Tony's legitimate and illegitimate earnings. Asset seizure is notoriously easy when defendants lack lawyers. Carmela, armed with Neil Mink and a battalion of pearl necklaces, would be harder to steamroll.
They're not discussing OC.
Still, the feds circling her finances is hardly the comforting cushion one dreams of in widowhood.
Flunked out of school. I ended up with a 1.4 for the quarter, and the freshman dean said there was no point in coming back.
And then there are the children. Anthony Jr., having lost both his father and his Uncle Bobby in the same 72-hour window, would be poised for a spiral of Olympian proportions.
Believe it or not, things have gotten worse with that kid. Flunked out of college.
Without Tony's reputation to shield him, AJ is, as the series frequently reminded us, essentially useless.
The ready access to guns, the use of violence to solve disputes.
Meadow, meanwhile, would experience the reality check of a lifetime. It is one thing to romanticize modes of conflict resolution from the old country, quite another to see one splattered across a pie case in front of your mother and brother.
Yeah, you said you wanted to be a lawyer for black people.
Oh, that's all I said. Really?
Meadow's "I'll be a mob lawyer to fight prejudice" phase would vanish the moment her father's brains hit the linoleum.
You're set in perpetuity. There's money in overseas accounts.
I don't have the serial number.
Financially, the question is not whether Carmela has assets, but whether she can touch them. We watch Tony squirrel away hundreds of thousands into offshore accounts. Bags of cash to Slava the Russian, numbered accounts in the Isle of Man, envelopes left with his lawyer in case of arrest.
Same drill. Isle of Man, 4 days, clean as whistle.
Tony was no genius, but he was surprisingly savvy with white-collar laundering. He might not have trusted even Silvio with the details, yet he made a point of ensuring Carmela would be taken care of. The problem? Accessing those funds. Slava is not in the business of giving refunds to widows, and Carmela's ricotta pies won't intimidate him the way Tony's fists once did. Without serial numbers, account details, or leverage, she could be left chasing phantoms across international banking laws that grew stricter by the year.
Dice.
You already took your cut for the bird feeder, and don't fucking deny it again. What, 40 grand in the stock market?
Some fans imagine her bird feeder money investments, or the $600,000 she cleared from her spec house flipping project, could keep her afloat. Perhaps. But her returns were meager. Her taste for safe, old economy investments hardly impressive.
The house is in my name, not the boat.
Even if she cashed out the McMansion, sold the boat, and lived off jewelry, the Ladro figurines, and Tony's cars, it would mean a steep downgrade from the cushioned mob wife lifestyle.
I saw Angie Bumpancero today. She was handing out free Polish sausage at the supermarket.
Carmela always sneered at women working real jobs as degrading. One can imagine her horror standing behind a deli counter for $8 an hour. Of course, there is the eternal fantasy of Furio's return.
Furio called a stupid fucking Zippo back to Italy.
Word of Tony's death could trickle back to Naples, prompting the ponytailed knight to reappear, whisk Carmela into a new life, and perhaps even strong-arm Tony's lawyer into releasing the offshore funds. It is a touching image, until one recalls Furio fled America precisely because he couldn't stomach killing Tony.
It was because of Furio, wasn't it?
Romantic loyalty, yes. Practical stability, doubtful. Meanwhile, Meadow's fiancé, Patrick Parisi, presents another complication. With her father murdered and her uncle-in-law, Bobby, gunned down, the wedding sponsor list shrinks quickly. Patrick himself could either flee, flip, or reconsider marrying into a blood-soaked dynasty that collapses faster than the soufflés at Vesuvio. If one seeks optimism, there is Carmine Lupertazzi Jr.
5 years in Florida fixing wet t-shirt contests.
In Florida, he basks by the pool, makes movies, and lives as one of the only mob figures to enjoy a happy ending.
Anthony Jr., you get up!
Compared to AJ's perpetual malaise, Carmine looks like a tenured professor of history. Some even imagine AJ escaping to Florida to join Carmine's leisurely life of positive visualization and wet t-shirt contests. If Carmela is lucky, AJ's existential meltdown could at least be redirected into poolside therapy with Carmine's guidance. The more cynical prediction, vultures descend. With Bobby dead, Silvio comatose, Paulie estranged, and Hesh indifferent, there is no one left in Tony's crew to honor his widow's claims. Whatever safety blankets Tony left his family, the mob would strip them away the moment his body went cold.
So this estate planning shit.
Without muscle, Carmela's only bargaining chip is paperwork. And paperwork never intimidated wise guys.
Honestly, guys, I'd recommend the life insurance trust.
Could she survive? Yes, but comfortably rather than lavishly. She has a paid-off house, likely some jewelry and assets, and perhaps a trust Tony signed over under duress. If Neil Mink holds the keys to the offshore accounts, she might access funds slowly, though one suspects he would skim generously for himself.
That spec house was my investment!
She may even return to real estate, or at least find a man willing to fund her standards. But the grand fantasy of Tony's millions hidden overseas swooping in to save her seems unlikely. Offshore money is not a genie that leaps out of a bank vault at the snap of a widow's fingers.
Fuck yourself!
When I'm gone, you can live in a fucking dumpster for all I care.
Without Tony alive to enforce it, Carmela has little leverage. At best, she inherits a nest egg. At worst, she is left with anecdotes about bird feeder investments and a boat she can't sail. The larger tragedy is thematic.
24 years, he disappears one day, and I get left with a sick dog.
The Sopranos always underscored how mob wives are trapped, cushioned only so long as their husbands breathe. Once the boss is gone, the safety net collapses, and the vultures, be they feds, rivals, or lawyers, pick the carcass clean. Carmela, who spent years justifying her gilded cage with rosaries and spec houses, would find herself exactly where the show warned she'd end up.
The mink coat.
Alone, diminished, and humiliated by the very system that once funded her mink coats. Season 7, then, is not about Tony's fate. It is about Carmela's reckoning.
Please, with Johnny awaiting trial and the feds freezing his assets?
A widow navigating frozen accounts, collapsing children, and a lifestyle she can no longer afford.
I can't declare X amount of my income.
A woman who believed she'd married into security discovers that her security was all along a mafia mirage. The feds take Carmela's assets. You can leave me one, your like, and subscribe.